Hi there and welcome to This Week with me, Audrina Lane, and sorry about my really mad fluffy hair, but I've just come back from the dog walk and it's a tad windy out there today. So let's get started on the next chapter from my debut novel, Where Did Your Heart Go? And we're up to chapter 48, which is pretty good I think, so sit back, relax and enjoy. In her bedroom, Charlie put the radio on. So what shall we do? I think I need to say thank you properly for this morning, Mitch said, leading her towards the bed. Turning her around, he untied the string of her bikini top and it fell to the floor, his hands reaching round to cup her breasts as she leaned back against his body. His hands slipped to her shorts and pulled them off. He felt her trembling as his hands ran back up and turned her around. Their lips met and they walked backwards towards the edge of the bed. Parting, he gently pushed her back onto the soft duvet. Charlotte breathed in as he knelt down, his hands running to the edge of her bikini bottoms. He hesitated for a moment and looked up into her face, about to ask permission when he saw her smile and nod. He hooked his fingers under the fabric and slid them down her legs to the floor. Kissing his way back up, he breathed in her unique, musky scent and ran his fingers over her small line of hair, lightly easing a digit into her wetness. Charlotte closed her eyes and gave herself to the feeling of his finger. And then they shot open again when she felt his hot breath, lips and tongue there instead. She looked down at his dark hair between her thighs, and as the sensations started to bubble up and spread throughout her body, she closed her eyes and tried to stay quiet when she really wanted to moan and cry. Mitchell found the right spot and she wiggled beneath him, the pure pleasure of his tongue flooding her body as she sighed and let it flow. Grabbing his shoulder, she started to sit up, really wanting to feel all of him inside her, but Mitch pushed her back down. "I want you," she begged. "Not today, Charlie. I seem to remember you said you wanted your first time to be special, and I have plans for that," Mitch assured, smiling down at her, seeing the look of desire on her face. "But I want you now," she pouted, trying to convince him to give in as her hands snaked their way over his hips to pull him closer. "You'll just have to be patient," he replied, even though his breathing was rapid as he felt her hands on him. Lying down next to her, they continued to kiss, and in between they talked about the dance competition next weekend and all the things they wanted to do whilst they were in the capital, a city neither of them had visited before. When Charlotte stirred, she was greeted by the sight of Mitchell lying next to her. Last night had been fantastic, and she blushed even thinking about what he had done to her with his tongue. Turning, she kissed him softly, and he opened his eyes, staring sleepily into hers. "Morning," she whispered. "Is it? I was still dreaming about last night." Smiling back at her, his sexy smile dazzled. She moved so that she was tightly wrapped in his arms, and they listened to the rain falling outside. But eventually the smell of bacon drifted up the stairs, and they followed it into the kitchen. "Morning, guys," said Charlie's mum as they appeared with tousled hair and smiles on their faces. "Morning, Mum, that smells nice," Charlie said, pouring some coffee as they hopped up onto the stools by the kitchen island. "Morning, Stephanie. Thanks for a lovely evening last night," Mitchell enthused, looking across at Charlie, a secret smile lighting up their features. "So what are your plans for the day?" Steph asked. "Not really sure," Charlie said, looking across at Mitch. "Think we might rehearse our dance, but otherwise I'm in Charlotte's capable hands," he replied, grinning, his mind clearly absorbed by thoughts of her. Charlotte picked up the florist cards from the table and read it. "Oh, Mum, who is this secret admirer then?" she asked, curiosity brimming over. "I've no idea," Steph replied, blushing slightly, "but he has good taste in flowers." Steph placed their breakfast down and joined them, but Mitchell and Charlie failed to hide their worry. Was this new admirer going to be a challenge James would have to overcome? They didn't know. After eating and helping to clear the kitchen, the young couple headed for the lounge and started dancing again. As the music changed to take my breath away, Mitchell watched Charlie dance her solo and made some comments, hoping it would help her even more with the lovely lines and shapes she already created with her body. They swapped over and Charlie watched as Mitch ran through Thriller again, also making some objective comments of her own that he was happy to take on board before they finished. After practice the rain had cleared to leave a warm but cloudy afternoon, so they both went out for a walk. Mitchell had the address for his dad's old house and wanted to see that, and then the riverside where the Rock on the River event would take place. Holding his hand, Charlie felt like the luckiest girl alive as they passed dog walkers, parents and children and other couples. Then she remembered the bench in her mum's diaries. "Mitch, we need to check the graffiti on the benches," Charlie said. "Why?" "Well, if it's still here. Your dad drew a heart and their initials onto one of the benches when he told my mum he was falling in love with her." Charlie slowed down when they reached the first bench. There was nothing there, so they continued until they found it at last. Sitting down on the slightly damp seat, they found the heart, faded from the sun and weather after 24 years, but still there. Charlie looked through her bag and found a marker pen, giving it to Mitchell. He found a small blank space not far from the heart, and he drew one, drawing inside it MC for CE, before handing the pen back to Charlotte. She left the top off and carefully drew over the lines of the original heart and initials, making it stand out once more against the rest of the scribbles. Sitting together it felt strange but comforting to know they were in the same place as their parents had been so long ago. Then their lips met and they kissed and held each other, knowing that the time they had left was short. "Do you think they'll get back together?" Charlotte asked as they made their way back home. "I kind of hope so, but I guess it's up to them," Mitch replied. "All we can do is wait and see next weekend." Putting his arm over Charlie's shoulder, they walked in step together. "I wonder who this secret admirer is," Charlotte said, thinking back to the card from the florist. My dad will blow him out the water," Mitch said. "After all, I've inherited his undeniable charm and good looks, and it worked on you." Charlie gave him a playful punch and laughed. She skipped away from him, but he caught her and spun her around and back into his arms. "I love you, Charlotte Eden." She smiled at his words and the seriousness that lay underneath the green of his eyes. "I love you too, Mitchell Cook," she replied, pressing her body close to his. They entered the house to be welcomed by the smell of roast dinner. "Where have you been?" Steph asked as they flopped down on the sofa. "Along by the river. We found your heart there," Charlie said, but the light left Steph's eyes. "And we drew one on the bench too," Mitch said, joining in. "I'll go and check on food. Why not watch a film or something?" Steph suggested, leaving them alone. Charlie noticed her mum was disturbed to discover they had followed the footsteps of her past. It was clear Steph needed a minute for herself. "Hey, let's watch that film your final song comes from. What's it called?" Mitch asked. "Top Gun, you mean? Your dad has never made you watch this? Mum tells me it used to be his favourite," Charlie said in amazement. She located it on the shelves and put the DVD in to play. Pulling her close, they cuddled up on the sofa and started to watch, until suddenly Mitch turned to her. "Had you realised our parents have named us after the lead characters? First time I watched it was when Mum helped me pick the song our group is dancing to, but I hadn't made the connection with your name," she said, laughing. "It could have been worse. He could have called you Maverick." "Or Pete," Mitch said. "I like my name. I've never met anyone else called it yet." As the film ended, Charlie wiped her eyes and he kissed the rest of her tears away, knowing how involved she'd been watching it. They went through to the kitchen as Steph had finished cooking and was just plating up dinner. "So we'll be seeing you again next weekend," Steph said. "Yes, my dad and grandparents are coming to watch, so I'll introduce them to you," he said. "Well, you've met my guests already. Sarah and Chris are coming down with Mum," Charlie announced. "Shall we meet at the venue, as it might be difficult to arrange something at the hotel?" Mitchell said. He was soon dressed in his leathers for the ride home. Charlie felt her mum watching from the doorstep, no doubt reminded of times when she was separated from James in a similar manner to this, living in different towns, separated by commitments that could end up splitting them up. As Charlie wandered in once Mitchell had left, Steph smiled weakly and handed over a mug of hot chocolate. "Thanks, Mum," she said. "I know how it feels, honey," said Steph, pulling her daughter close. "I've been there." Her mum read her mind. Yes, I know, but at least I can keep in touch with Mitchell every day. It was much harder for you, just waiting for letters and a weekly phone call. Life changes, Steph shrugged, heading for the stairs. Night, Mum. Night, sweetheart. So it's all starting to come together. I'm really excited for the last few chapters of this book because they really are exciting. If you do want to get ahead of the plan, then you can pop on Amazon and find it there. The ebook's only 99p or 99¢, so it's a real bargain. And then you won't have to listen to me read it. Or the paperback is also available on Amazon, or if you would like a specially signed to you copy, then please just either email me from my website, which is www.audrinalane.co.uk, or you can find me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Just search Audrina Lane. Anyway, that's it from me for tonight. For the moment, I'm off to have some tea. So I shall speak to you again next week. Bye for now.